So before going to the actual video, which is delete and truncate, let's go through what our channel will contain. So basically our channel will contain Microsoft SQL concepts explained in detail. Along with it, it would also carry the interview questions with the answers. There would be practical assignments also along with the answers explained in detail. So if you want to get updates on this, we would request you to please subscribe this channel. So let's move to the today's video, which is delete versus truncate. So basically the answer which we are going to create in this video, we are making sure that the interviewer will get impressed with this answer. Now what's contained in this video, let's go through it. This video will carry 14 differences between delete and truncate. Also there would be a practical demo for each and every difference which is being explained. Go through the difference between the delete and truncate. So delete basically removes all our specific rules. So we have the flexibility in the delete command. We can write a filter condition in the where clause. So based on that, it will remove the records. Now in where clause, you can give any particular record or you can give a group of records. Also, you can remove all the records by removing the where clause. So in that case, there would be no condition. So all records would be deleted. In case of truncate, we don't have the option to give where clause. So it removes all the records. Now let's go through the demo for this. Through the practical implementation of delete and truncate, we have a table over here, TBL employee data. Let's go through records which are present in this table. So we see over here there are total 4 records. Okay. Now to be more specific, let's see the record where employee ID is 1. Now we have to delete a record where employee ID is 1. Okay, so let's execute delete statement where employee ID is 1. Okay, 1 row affected, that means our delete query has worked. Now there should not be any record with the employee ID is 1. So this is what is we are seeing. The record is being deleted. So basically here we have deleted 1 record by putting a filter in the delete clause. Now let's move to our next command, which is truncate. Let's see how it works. We see over here count is 3. Okay, now in this particular table we have now 3 records. Let's navigate like what are that 3 records. Okay, it's having employed is 2, 3 and 4. Now let's try to see if we want to delete a record where employee ID is 2, can we delete it using truncate or no? Okay, let's see what message the SQL gives us when you put employee ID is 2 using truncate. Okay, so here it should not work because as we saw, truncate does not allow where clause. But let's see what is the message which it gives if you try to put it. Here you can observe already it has shown the where in a red color, right, saying incorrect syntax near where, right? Let's see what error message it gives us. It says incorrect syntax near the keyword where, which we are able to see prior to executing this, right? So basically the reason is truncate doesn't works with where clause, right? So now let's truncate the entire table's data. Okay, executed successfully. Now let's see the count of the records, which should come out to be 0. So this is what is happening. This is as expected. Let's go to the second difference of 14. Delete is a DML command, that is data manipulation language. The reason being it impacts only the data. Truncate is a DDL command, that is data definition language command. The reason being it impacts the structure of the table as well. If you consider one table which has a identity column, let's say for example identity 1 comma 1, then you perform a truncate on this table and later insert one record in this table, so that new record will have that value which is nothing but the seed value. Now let's see this through a demo. Let's see a demo of how delete and truncate works, specifically when we have a column which is having a identity, right? Now I have one table TBL employee in which I have a column employee ID. As you can see over here, it has an identity specification which is of 1 and 1. That means it has a base value of 1. The seed represents base value. That means the row will start from 1, right? The first value which would employee ID get is 1. Then we have a increment, it's of 1. That means every further insert will lead to employee ID being increased by 1. So let's say for example, if you perform a first insert in this table, it will have a value which is nothing but equal to seed value, which is 1. If you now insert one more record in the table, it would have a ID which is incremented by 1. So that means first value was 1, next value would be 2, third value would be 3. Each time it would get increased by 1. Okay, with this as the base, now let's go to our select query. We have two records in this table, employee ID 1 and 2. Now let's perform a delete on this. Now just to give you a background, now if you insert a third record in this table, it would have an employee ID which would be nothing but 2 plus 1. Why plus 1? Because our increment is 1. So every time an insert is made in this table, it would have a value which would be incremented by 1. Okay, so now let's perform a delete on this table. So delete got successfully executed. Let's see the state of the table. No records present. So now let's insert one record in this table. So now as we discussed, the new record would have an employee ID which is equal to 3. Now let's see how it goes. Inserting a new record, right? So as you can see, this is as expected, because initially the table had two records, employee ID 1, employee ID 2. Okay, so based on that, the next record which should get inserted should have a value of 3. So this is as expected. Now let's move to truncate. Okay, so now considering we have one record which has a value of 3. Okay, if you now insert a new record in this table, it should have a value of 4. Okay, but now let's see how is truncate working for this scenario. I have executed a truncate on this particular table. So the records are deleted. Now the most interesting thing that we want to see, that if we perform a insert now at this stage, what would be the value of the employee ID? Okay. So here is my again next insert, right? So this is the select which we are going to see after the truncate and insert being performed. So as you can see here, the employee ID has came out to 1. So that means truncate resets the identity column to the seed value. Now what was our seed value? It was 1. So that is what is coming over here. Go to the third difference out of 14 of delete and truncate. So in case of delete, it places lock on each row to be deleted. This is because delete works row by row, so the locking is performed at the row level. Truncate places a table and page lock to remove all records. So now truncate removes all the rows of a table, so the lock is placed on the table and page to remove all records. Next difference, 4th out of 14. Delete logs entry for each deleted row in the transaction log. So since delete operates at row by row level, there is a log entry for each row in the transaction log. In the demo which we are going to see, we are going to practically view that transaction log in case of delete takes more space as compared to truncate. Truncate does not log entries for deleted rows in the transaction log. Since it's not operating row by row level, the transaction log of truncate is far more less than delete. We are going to see the demo of this. Let's start with the truncate command first. We have a table, TBL employee data. It contains around 30,000 records. Okay, so here you can see it's 30,000 records. Then we are going to truncate the table and use the fn underscore dblock command. Now what is fn underscore dblock command? It gives the number of log records generated from the operation. So in our case, it's going to give number of log records generated from the truncate operation. Along with that, we have also used over here checkpoint. Now what is checkpoint? Checkpoint creates a known good point from which the SQL Server database engine can start applying changes contained in the log during recovery after an unexpected shutdown or crash. Now let's execute this in one go and let's see what is the output. You see over here 65 and later it goes down to 6. Right? So the count which you see over here in case of truncate is very less. Now let's go to delete command. We have created a similar table and similar number of records. Let's verify the number of records over here. You can see over here also we have 30,000 records. Okay. Same command we have used over here also But only difference is instead of truncate, we have used over here delete. And let's see what does fn underscore dblog gives us here. So what we are expecting, the number of log records generated in case of delete operation should be more. How much more? Let's see. Okay, 30,770. Okay, back to 3. So as you can see, there is a huge difference in the number of transaction log records in case of delete, right? In case of delete, it's very high. In case of truncate, it's very less. So this is again one of the very important difference between delete and truncate. The fifth difference between the delete and truncate. So delete has a slow execution. Delete table is a logged operation. So the deletion of each row gets logged in the transaction log, which makes it slow. Truncate has a fast execution. Truncate table also deletes all the rows in a table, but it won't log the deletion of each row. Instead, it logs the deallocation of data pages in the table, and which ultimately makes it faster. Now let's see the demo of the points which we have considered. Let's consider the demo of the truncate and delete. So here what we have to find is how much time the truncate takes and how much time the delete takes. Now before performing this operation, what we'll do is we'll check the count of records in the table. So here you could see the number of records in this table are 30 lakh. Okay, now let's consider how much time the truncate takes to remove all the records in this table. Okay, so it almost instant. As you can see over here, the time is not even a single second. Okay, now let's check the count. Count is 0, right? So you saw that almost 30 lakh records got deleted from a table in less than a second. Now let's consider another table which has the same structure, same data, same count of records. Okay, now here also in this table you can consider that we have around 30 lakh records, right? So now what we are going to do, we are going to perform a delete on this table rather than truncate, and let's note down how much time it takes. Okay, so I have started that command. It's not yet completed. The time is increasing. It's 6 seconds and still on, right? So you can see over here, it took almost 8 seconds. So this is the difference between the delete and truncate and deleting the records. Truncate took less than a second to delete 30 lakh records, whereas delete statement to delete 30 lakh records, it took almost 8 seconds. Let's consider the point 6 of 14. In case of delete, it removes rows one at a time. In case of truncate, it removes all rows in the table. And the deallocation which happens, it's at page level, which are used to store table data. Let's move to next point. Difference 7 of 14. In case of delete, it does not reset identity to its seed value. It retains the identity. So here what happens, if you have one column, say for example as employee ID, it has 3 values, 1, 2, 3. and you perform a delete on this table. So after inserting the next row, the employee ID column would have the value which is 3 plus 1, which is 4. So I'm considering here the increment of 1. So in that case, the value of the newly inserted column would be 4. Now let's consider the same scenario in case of truncate. What it will do? It will reset the identity to its seed value. Now let's consider a case where the column has a identity seed as 1, increment as 1. So after you execute the truncate on this table, the new value for that column would be set to seed value. So in our case, it would be set to 1, since 1 is the seed value. Let's consider now difference 8 of 14. So in case of delete, the transaction log space which is required is more, and in case of truncate, the transaction log space is less. Since in case of delete, we are having a row by row deletion, and in case of truncate, we are deleting page by page, right? So this way, the transaction log space which is there, right, in case of truncate is very less. Now let's go to reference 9 of 14. To perform a delete operation, you require delete permission on a table, and to perform truncate, require alter table permission on a table. This is because it impacts the structure of the table. Truncate impacts the structure of the table, and delete impacts only the data. Let's move to difference 10 of 14. Delete can be used with indexed views. In case of truncate, it can't be used with indexed views. Let's see a demo of how it goes. Consider the delete and truncate, how it works for views. Okay, so in my case, I have an indexed view. The name of my view is VW underscore employees, and here it's an index view. I've written with schema binding, and here you can just see I have created a view on my employees table, just fetching the name, right? Now let's see both of the operations, truncate and delete, how they work on the views. So let's start with truncate. I will just write truncate table and view name, and also I will try truncate view name, right? So let me start with truncate view and view name, because this looks a little bit logical, since VW underscore employees is our view name, right? So here it gives us the message that incorrect syntax near the keyword view. Let's go to other option, which is truncate table and view name. It doesn't seem logical, but let's see what is the error message it gives. So here you could see that could not truncate the object VW underscore employees because it's not a table. So neither truncate table, neither truncate view, both of them are not working. So here the issue is, first of all, truncate doesn't works when it's a view. Okay, we tried that option also, truncate view name, it doesn't works. And for truncate table to work, it needs a table name over here. Now since we have specified a view name over here, so this will also not work. So the conclusion is truncate is not working for the index view. Now let's move to a select query. Just let's filter out one record which we want to delete. Okay, here the view is fetching one record. Okay, name is John. Now let's try to delete this from the view using the delete command. one row affected, that means our delete has worked successfully. And as you can see over here, the delete works perfectly fine on an indexed view. To the point 11 of 14. So in case of delete, it retains all object statistics and allocated space, whereas truncate removes all statistics and allocated space. Now what's the reason? The reason is since it deallocates all data pages of a table. Let's move to point 12 of 14. Delete can activate trigger. The reason for it is it works on individual rows and delete the data. So now as trigger is at row level, it triggers whenever there is a delete at the row level. Whenever there is a delete at the row level, trigger gets activated. And what does delete command do? It deletes the records at the row level. Whereas in case of truncate, it can't activate trigger. Why? The reason is it deallocates all pages and so it does not activate trigger. Let's see a demo of this. So now here you can see that I have created a trigger on one of my table, which is TBL employee. Now this would be executed when I perform a delete operation on this table. And here I have used the source as one of the magic table, which is deleted. Now what does deleted table will contain? Whenever I perform a delete operation on the TBL employee table, that particular record would be captured by this deleted table. Now, for example, if I delete a record in the TBL employee with employee ID is 1, so that particular record would be present in this deleted table. This is a magic table. We have one more magic table, it's named inserted to be more precise. So this is my trigger definition. Let's move to actual implementation. Now let's see the data which is present in this table. Okay. Now let's do a delete operation on this table by deleting employee ID is 2. Okay, so whenever I perform a delete operation on this table, my trigger would be called. Okay, so let's check the data present in the audit table also, because here my deleted record would be captured. Okay, currently there is no data, but once I execute a delete operation on this table, my trigger would be called, and after my trigger would be called, insert would be performed in this table. It would generate this employee ID 2 and operation would be delete. Okay, so let's execute these 3 commands in one go. Okay, so delete operation got completed successfully. Now record with employee IDs 2 got deleted from this table, TBL employee, and one more record got inserted in the table TBL employee audit. That record is employee IDs 2, which you perform the delete, and there is one more field which is data, just to get details which operation is being performed. So this was all related to delete operation. Now let's switch to truncate. Now first of all, let's see whether SQL allows trigger on truncate operation. Okay, so moment you put truncate, it will give a syntax error, incorrect syntax near truncate, expecting delete, ID, insert, off, or update. If you still try to execute this, it will give you a same message, incorrect syntax near the keyword truncate. So the conclusion is we cannot use truncate operation on triggers. Now let's see one of the point. This actually is not a difference, it's a similarity. Most of them think with truncate we cannot perform a rollback. Okay, now let's understand this point. We'll see first of all in delete. We have one table TBL employee sales with below data. Okay, now I have used over here a transaction. I have a rollback and in between I am doing a delete. So firstly I will just execute this part. I will perform a delete on this table using the transaction. So as you can see the delete has happened. I will check, there should be no record in this table, correct? Now let's do a rollback. Now once I do rollback I should see my 4 records back. Now let's check the table's data. I see my all 4 records back. So with this what we conclude, delete supports rollback. Now let's move to truncate. Again we have the same table. We see the data in it. Okay. Now again here we execute the truncate. The records are deleted. Let's check the table's data. There should be no data. So we don't have any row in the table TBL employee sales. Now let's perform a rollback. Please note this is truncate. In truncate we are going to see rollback. Let's see, are we able to restore the 4 records or no. Okay, we perform the rollback and now let's check the select on this table. Most of them think truncate will not be able to restore the data, but it's not the fact. We are able to restore the data in truncate. So basically summary is delete and truncate both support a rollback. See the difference 13 of 14. A delete command can be executed in case the foreign key command constraint applied to the object that has to be deleted. Let's see the truncate statement. A truncate command cannot be executed in case the foreign key command constraint applied to the object that has to be truncated. Now let's move to the point 14 of 14, which is the syntax. The delete has a syntax: delete from table name. You can specify the where condition based on your requirement. Let's move to the syntax of truncate. It's truncate table name. You cannot specify the where clause over here. It removes all the records. Let's move to the demo now. Now TBL employee, this table has a primary key which is employee ID. This primary key is referenced in another table TBL employee sales, which becomes foreign key over here. So TBL employee sales is referring to employee ID of TBL employee. So in TBL employee ID is primary key, but when it comes over here, TBL employee sales, this becomes the foreign key. Now the scenario which we are going to consider is delete on this table, TBL employee. This table is the one which has employee ID as the primary key. Okay, we are going to consider both scenarios, delete and then truncate. Let's switch to delete first. Let's check the table's data. We don't have any record in this table. Okay, let's insert one record. Okay, one record affected, insert successful. Let's check the data. We have the one row. Now let's check the delete on this table. Okay, delete is successful. Let's check the table data. Right? So delete is working perfectly fine. Now let's switch to truncate. Okay, same table is being used. You can see there is no data present. I will insert one row. So after inserting, we can see this row as the insert was successful. Now let's see what happens when we perform a truncate on this table. Cannot truncate table TBL employee because it's being referenced by a foreign key constraint, right? So what you can see over here, delete operation worked, but the truncate operation did not work in this scenario. So this is the table which had the employee ID as the primary key, and this was referenced as a foreign key in the other table, TBL employee sales. So the summary is we cannot perform a truncate in case the foreign key command constraints apply to the object that has to be truncated. Hope you would have liked this video. To get such quality videos, please subscribe to this channel. Also, please comment to share what you want to see next, and please share with your friends.